Hello and welcome to Almost 30 Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Lindsay Simsick and Krista Williams, your BFFs in the pod world. Thanks for being here. It means so freaking much to us. And did I mention we are also authors now? So I'll just plug that we wrote a book. You can pre-order it now at almost30book.com.
Yeah, I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on the book. It's been a labor of love. And I think if you were following on social media, we hated our first cover. We had to change it in very Virgo rising fashion for me, Virgo sun for Lindsay. And now we have a cover that we love and we are just so freaking proud of it. So if you're an OG, you got to pre-order now. And if you're new, you got to get that guide that's going to support you in any transition in your life.
Truly. Well, it's the holiday season officially. How are we doing? I feel like it always just smacks me in the face in like the best and worst of ways.
I just am cracking up because all year I was like, if I'm not with my man by holidays, it's done. And here we are.
If we're not watching,
if me and my man are not official by the holidays, then I'm just done for. And as we cruise on to the holidays, I'm not with said man.
Isn't it funny how we do that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where like, yeah, I remember, I mean, I feel like I still do that in my life with certain things, but I just remember that specifically with dating and finding the man. I was like, if not this time, then I'm out.
Yeah. I don't know what my if was of like, if I'm not, then what? But I think I don't know if I was going to spontaneously combust or whatever the thing was, but the timeline just gets pushed and pushed and pushed. It's so hilarious.
Dude, God laughs when we make plans.
I know 100%. What does it bring up for you, the holidays?
I just wish I had more time around the holidays because I do feel like the holidays are some of my favorite times of year. And I feel like there's always kind of this rush at the end of the year work-wise, like to get things done, to kind of like, we're kind of in, book planning mode, which is really exciting, but also can be stressful. Just wanting a bit more time for that, for personal things. So yeah, it just always feels like it sneaks up. And then I feel like we're still like last minute Nellies on like planning trips and things like that. Like what's nice is that I do feel really present in my life, but that also kind of prevents me from like planning for certain things. So we're wanting to go away between Christmas and New Year's. And I'm like, hey, we need to plan it. We need to book it, actually. We need,
What's stopping you?
I think I'm waiting on some logistical things from Sean because we're seeing if we can go certain places, etc. And then also there's just like an indecisive part of me where I'm like, do I want to be in warm weather? Do I want to be in cozy winter weather? Do I want to, just kind of that thing. And there's just the whole logistical layer of having a child and kind of what that means travel wise. And before having a kid, I was like, he's just going to fit into our life and we're just going to do whatever the fuck we want to do. And that's really a grand vision, but it's not always the reality of the situation, especially, I don't know. It's just not for me. So I think we'll get there, but at this age, it's just different. So it's like a layer of non-spontaneity that, is right now.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I feel like the productive part of me gets really horned up around the holidays because I'm like, all you fuckers are taking off and I'm not going to take off.
Totally.
You're going to see
Krista's not blowing up
grinding.
our Slack.
I am. I'm going to be
Trust that.
Literally Christmas Day, catch me on Slack. I was with a friend yesterday and she's like, we're hanging out on Thanksgiving because I'm staying here. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to be off on Thursday and then Friday so we can hang out Friday. And I was like, after I'm done, I was like, I got things to do. So I don't know if that's healthy. And I actually this week I've committed to tracking my hours of how much I'm working and I just want to be more mindful of kind of my time spend recently. Sure. I've felt like I just need to kind of be honest with myself about kind of some patterns that I'm in. So I'm like going to track my hours. But yeah, I do feel like at the end of the year, it's always kind of a disappointment around the holidays. The holidays are always kind of a little funky. New Year's
Mhm.
Eve is rarely ever as amazing as it's supposed to be,
I
you
dropped
know?
that expectation years
Same.
ago.
I dropped it years ago. Like, just never as fun as it should have been, or as it maybe you thought it was going to be in high school or something. I don't know. It's always
Yeah.
just, it's always so blah. And I feel like I
What
always
was
get,
did you ever have a really amazing New Year's Eve?
yeah, one time we went, I mean, this was at the time, we went to Vegas. I wore a rented Hervé Leger dress.
Yes,
I
of
looked like a
course.
mail order bride, and I
Mhm.
was on top of the world.
You were sliving.
I was sliving. We were early on in our relationship, and it was like at those days when you kept talking about getting married and having kids. And it was just like the best feeling in the world, where you're just like
Yes.
in that love bubble. And that was when I like would maybe like Vegas or something like that. I think that was
Yeah.
a good one. And then the rest, it's pretty much all been, last minute. And I think for me, it's hard because I have so many friends. I don't have a
Mhm.
group. I don't want to be a part of a group of friends like that. I don't like to be committed to anything. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't know which one of my one friends I want to hang out with. I'm
Yeah,
like,
because it's
who's getting my
for
time?
that night, it's a commitment.
Commitment. I'm gonna go to Scottsdale though, the Global Ambassador, that hotel that I love.
Mhm.
You guys, I get hit on 4 times in a weekend, and it's my new favorite place on earth. So I'm committing to going there for New Year's Eve to just catch some fish.
It's kinda nice to get out of LA,
Oh, completely. Yeah. I'm just like,
you
I'm going to
know?
be out of LA. I'm going with a few friends. I love that hotel. It's whatever. I'm going to get really dressed up. It'll be perfect. It's not too far away. It's fine.
100%.
Yeah.
So fun.
I got to
I
be
I need
mindful.
pic
Go
I
ahead.
need pictures of the guys.
Oh, girl. What do you
I
mean?
need, I need, covert, this is the scene at the bar, this is the scene at the lounge right now.
Ugh. Have I
I can
shown
picture
you
it.
my Paris man?
No, I don't think so, you described him.
Girl.
Yeah, I need to
He
see.
is one of those that is just, the more I'm away from him, the more I'm like, you are so fine. Like, it's
Mm,
sometimes when I'm with men, I need to leave them to really feel in my body how I feel about them, and really get clear on like, okay, how do I feel? Because
it's
when you're
very
in
real.
the energy, it's kind of, so it's like, I need to go away and then
Mhm.
decide in my mind and in my truth. Man, it's just, I want to go to
Mm.
Paris for New Year's
I know,
Eve,
I
to
was
be
like,
honest.
maybe Paris for Valentine's Day.
Honestly, because I don't really even want them to come into my space. I'm like, I don't want you to come to Erewhon with me. Like,
Yeah.
I want to stay in the fantasy of like us at the
I just wanted to be
plaza.
on vacation the whole time
Yeah, I'm
that
like,
we're in a relationship.
I want to stay at Costs and just like be somewhere that's your neighborhood. I don't want this to be true and real. I don't want this to be a part of my life.
Mhm. Non-committal.
100%. But dude, I have to, you guys, for traveling for the holidays, before we get into the episode with Savannah King, I had the most dramatic luggage fiasco of all time. I've never had so much engagement on social media, which actually scares me because I try and provide valuable content. And then I literally
Yeah.
talk about losing my luggage and I have 20,000 views.
Mhm.
I had the most dramatic luggage experience, not ever, but it was 2 weeks of up, down, side to side, round and round. Someone had actually taken my bag. He was in San Diego. He was actually really hot. We could have met. We didn't. He was rude. They said it's gone. They said it's here. They said it's left. They said it's da 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 da. And it made me and reminded me of being way more thoughtful about my luggage. And so now I have an air tag. Now I have one of the label tags. And now I have a identifier of like a ribbon or something on it. So that
Yeah.
makes it look different, because I'm like kind of, I was a little bit lackadaisical about it. I check every bag I
Too.
don't want to carry on. I'm just like that. And so, especially around the holidays when so much can happen to your luggage, this is my plea for you guys. Be mindful about your travel.
Dude, I've done that before where I took someone's luggage. Thankfully,
Dude,
she
that's an L dog
tracked
move
me
if
down
I've
in
ever heard one.
2.5
No
seconds
way.
and was I think I was like, getting my rental car or something, so I went back, but I mean, she ripped me a new one. Ripped me. I had it back within 45 minutes, but it was like a big deal because I totally kind of threw off her day. So yeah, I learned that lesson as well, not as extreme as yours, but everyone has a freaking bag that looks like someone else's bag now.
Oh,
You know,
totally.
like everyone has an Away or like one of the other brands. And so, yeah, you got to be careful. But wait, did you get it back?
I finally got it back on Friday afternoon.
Oh my God. Thank
So,
God.
I mean, it was just they at the beginning, they're like, it's gone. We don't have it. Then they said it was on the way to my house. Then they said it was in Paris. And then they called me and sent me a picture of the luggage. And then they asked me if it was like Francisco's, my name was Francisco. My name is obviously not Francisco. Then it
Mhm.
was lost again. And then it was found again. And then it was in San Diego. And then I had to pick it up. And then they had a courier go get it. And then it was at LAX for 3 days without them telling me because the girl that runs it was off work. And then she had it finally delivered to me through a courier, and it was delivered to my neighbor's house. But hey, it's all good. We got it back.
Dude.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean,
Yeah.
it was so funny because I had this romantic idea too of everything in it. I was like, I have the nicest stuff in there. All of my luxury goods are in there. And then I opened it and I was like, all of this is mid. I was like, dang. I was like, stuff isn't even that nice, actually. Like, I had this like
Take
literal
it back.
romantic idea of it where I was like, oh, I have like Gucci loafers and all of my Chanel earrings. It's like, no, it was basics. I was like, dang, this wasn't even that dope. Like when I got it back, I'm like, and then I had to unpack my luggage and I was like sad. I'm like, God, I don't even want to be unpacking this
Yeah,
luggage right now. I
truly.
was like, take it
Don't
back.
need it.
Yeah, I was like, take it
Dude.
back.
That's why I think it pays to, and I don't even know if Delta's that good, but like they do track your luggage.
100%. Girl,
They do.
100%. I keep getting reminded of that. I'm like, I just do the cheapest airline. Y'all can do your Delta all day. Cool. I'm gonna be flying the cheapest airline. It is what it is.
Because
I'm
you sleep like no matter
I know.
what. Like
I
you're
don't even
kind of an
care.
easy traveler. Yeah, yeah.
But it did make me realize why Delta's the best, why JetBlue's the best, why different companies are the best, because this was the customer service was horrible. It
Yeah.
was, they were like, I mean, the way that they were like, when I called and I was like asking for information, they're like, I'm not getting paid enough for this.
Okay.
It's not even our fault that someone else took your bag and we're helping you out now. I'm like, what?
Dude.
It was insane. I was like, it was, it
They're
was a,
like, what? You're gonna do a viral TikTok on
uh-huh,
Tahiti Air Nui or whatever it's called? Like,
uh-huh.
nah, it doesn't even matter. Nobody cares.
Yeah, honestly, they were like, don't even care. People were like, tag the brand, tag the brand. And I'm like,
They
I
don't have
think
they don't have an Instagram.
honestly, I think it would piss them off more. Like, because they have the power, they have my bag. They can choose whether to give it back to me. And the way that they were talking to me, if I would have tagged them, they would have burned my bag. Like they would
Yeah,
have
totally.
thrown it off a cliff. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not going to set them off. They know what they
Mhm.
did. And you know what? Maybe their job sucks and everyone hates them. So
Yeah.
whatever. But that's our thing for the holidays. And we wish you guys well around the holidays. I know it can be a time of stress and
Yeah.
overwhelm. And I think what I will say is that I notice a lot with people that I work with, my clients, or even just in the community, people always say that they're looking forward to a slower time after the holidays. And then they lie to themselves. And then after the holidays, they actually are like, okay, now new year, new me, I have to go hard. So if you can actually, and this is saying, coming from someone that's saying that I probably won't rest over the holidays, but I can tell you guys, you should take this time. Like people always say that they're going to take the next month to rest and then they push it the next month and the next month. Actually taking the time off if you can and actually resting as much as you can, because if there's any time when you potentially can do that, it should be now. So as much as you can to take time off, I think you should.
Yeah, and I think like noticing where you're most plugged in when you are
Yes.
busy. So maybe that's social media for some people, maybe it's email for others,
Yeah.
maybe it's checking something else for work, whatever it is, like seeing if you can truly, truly unplug. Because even if I'm chilling, but I'm on like socials, I don't feel well rested afterwards. So just noticing that, like even if you're laying horizontal, like
Yep.
be unplugged from the thing that you're normally plugged into because you will not at all feel rested.
Totally agree. I totally agree. I think that's my intention is I can do my thing on the things that I need to do, but I want to spend more time off social.
Yeah,
I want to, I
same.
think I'm going to get the app where it logs you off or it kind of knocks you off
Mhm.
because I think that's really my biggest distraction.
Mhm.
But guys, today's conversation I'm excited about. We have Savannah King on. Savannah is a healer. She is a goldsmith. She is someone that works in jewelry and in like the metal smithing space. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation was because there is such an ancient spiritual practice and medicine to jewelry and adornment and metals and form. And so when we think about throughout history, whether it's Egyptian culture, Greek culture, Roman culture, whatever mythology, or even Eastern traditions, there is such a power and potency to stones and jewelry and to adornment. And especially when we think about tapping into the feminine, if you're someone that wants to be more in your feminine, to be more in your queen or your lover archetypes, sacred adornment is such a beautiful thing. And so I was so interested to get to know her and learn more about the stories and the mythos around this and really learn about things like sacred adornment. So when you learn about stone medicine, you really learn about the energetic qualities of different stones. You also learn about deepening your relationships to what it means to be in your adornment practice and in your feminine with these modalities. So we talked so much about that. She has so much history that she shares and fascinating information. I had a healing session with her. She did a reading on me. So you'll get a little bit of tea on my reading and sort of what she picked up and what she went through. But I really am excited for you guys to tune into this. I think Savannah's amazing. She's super sweet. She works with our dear friend Lacey Phillips. She's like one of her jewelers. And so she has a really beautiful practice with that. But I think you'll be fascinated and really inspired to rethink the way that you adorn yourself and dress yourself and really seeing the ritual elements of jewelry in your everyday life as a practice to really tuning into your feminine that each of us can do.
Mm, so beautiful. It makes me think of when I used to adorn myself with like Claire's or Forever
Oh,
21.
you're like everything would be green.
Yeah, you're like, why is my earlobe green?
I know you'd be like, it would be like inflamed.
Yeah, literally. I'm so sensitive. Like my ears would be freaking like Shrek ears.
Yeah.
No, this is beautiful. And I think it also just like helps me to like recalibrate around the consumerism of jewelry and
Yes.
things that are adorning. It's like, how do we support brands, artists, and in this case, also healers who are creating things for the world, like actual physical material things that are have more intention and have like a cleaner consciousness around them, which is really something interesting to think about, especially this holiday season where we're kind of bombarded with that temptation,
Yeah.
to buy it all.
Completely agree. That's why I have some pieces of her jewelry. And really, when you're wearing a piece of metal or a stone, it has been impressed upon the energetic frequency of the person that's making it, the person that finds the stone. Like it's just such a sensory thing. You know, crystals, quartz crystals are really these living microchips. They're in every computer. It's how we store memory. So you can store memory in your stones. So really being mindful about where you get your stones, having less pieces, but ones that you really love. And I've found such a different frequency when I wear different jewelry. I kind of wear a different jewelry for different phases or to embody different aspects of who I am or for luck or things like that. I mean, I've been wearing a sapphire lately because I keep having dreams of sapphire. It's like a really spiritual stone. There's so many references to sapphire in the Bible and throughout history. And so I've really been wanting to bring through the
Mm,
frequency of sapphire into my life. And I don't I learn enough about it to be aware, but I don't really go too far and just really let it be something that is like between me and me as an intuitive hit. So encouraging people that want to connect to their intuition too, to let their intuition be their guide for what jewelry or stone or metal really feels called to them and just seeing what kind of magic or miracles unfold.
beautiful. So cool. SavannahKing.com. So, so beautiful. And does she do healing?
Yeah, so she does her sessions. I think you can message her about sessions. So she does, okay, there's stone medicine readings. So in her stone medicine readings, she does virtual readings. They're on her
Cool.
website. So savannahking.com, you can get one of them. And she will tune into your energy centers and really share what comes forward and then suggest stones and rituals for your part of the process.
Cool.
And it was cool. Like it was very, very interesting, very powerful. I really felt safe in her presence. And I think you guys can start it with those if you feel really called to that. So I'm excited for you guys to get to know her. Share this with a friend. I think this is such a cool, interesting conversation, especially for women to be in conversation about sacred adornment and stone medicine. And savannahking.com. Again, it's savannahking.com. Thank you for tuning into Almost 30. You guys are the best. We love you so deeply. We're so grateful for you. We're so pumped about all the pre-orders. It means so much to us. And I hope you enjoy this.
Enjoy. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. This time of year, winter season, holiday season, one of my favorite things to do is get cozy on the couch, just like wrap a weighted blanket around me, have like a cup of my favorite hot bevy, and watch some good TV. You know what I mean? It's just that comfort that I crave. And then I got to thinking like, okay, do I have this like comfort thing with me all year long? Like, what is that thing outside of this winter season? I was like, actually, interestingly, it's therapy. Therapy is my comfort. It's really, the consistency of it has supported me in feeling grounded and good in my body and where I am in my life. And then I can show up to my relationships and my job and my creativity and my child and my husband, like just in the best way, the best version of myself possible. And I'm really just proud of that. I've been going to therapy for 6 years now. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Literally all you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time if you need to. No additional cost. It's super easy. So I'm excited for you. Now is the time. Find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/almost30 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/almost30. Okay, I am so excited to share about this sweet and special product. I've actually been a fan for years. My mom actually got me an aura frame a couple years ago. We each have one in my family, and we update each other's digital frames. And not only is it chic in my house, because that's a requirement for these types of things, but it's like my favorite thing in my house. It just is such a reminder of what's really important to me in life, which is my family and friends. And bonus, Mav loves it too. My son, he looks at it every single day, and now he's able to identify who's in the frame. When he pops up in the frame, he goes, me. But let's be honest, what most people really want for the holidays is to see their favorite people more often. And this year, you can give, honestly, the best gift. I've been giving it to a lot of people. My husband's like, can you give another frame? I'm like, yes, it's the best gift. It's the #1 digital photo frame by Wirecutter. Aura frames are incredibly smart and easy to use, allowing you to upload unlimited photos and videos directly from your phone to the frame. Plus, you can order the frame online and preload it with photos and videos using the Aura app. So it's ready to go right out of the box, which is so awesome, especially for grandparents and parents. Maybe they're not as tech savvy. This is super, super, super simple to use. And I actually talked to my Nana the other day, and she was like, oh, Lindsay, you have no idea what it means to see new photos in the frame pop up. Like, it really does keep me going. And I was so touched by that, because we don't realize how important it is for, our elders, our parents and our grandparents and great grandparents to see us and our kids growing up. So this is an amazing, amazing gift. Save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com, AURA frames.com, to get $35 off major Aura's best-selling carver matte frames by using promo code almost30 at checkout. That's Aura, AURA frames.com. Promo code is almost 30, and this deal is exclusive to listeners. So get yours now in time for the holidays. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm so grateful you're here. I had such a beautiful session with you a few weeks ago, which I want to talk about. And I just was like fascinated by so much of what you know and so much of how you live. And I think there's such a powerful conversation in talking about jewelry and adornment and like the history. And you just shared so much that I was so excited about. But I wanted to start the conversation with sharing about something that happened recently for me, because the audience knows I was divorced. I got divorced probably like a year and a half ago at this point. I don't really know. And I had the ring, post wedding, I had the ring at the house. And I remember I was on a trip in New York, and I was with girlfriends and I was kind of doing my thing, and it was a really beautiful trip. But at the end of it, I was like, I'm ready for my person. I was just complete. I was complete with the girl dinners. I was complete with the girl trips. I was like, I love y'all and I'm ready to be with my man. I'm ready to give my life over to my relationship. I'm ready for the next phase. I'm ready for the next chapter. I'm ready for my person. And before, I had been dating just for fun, for pleasure, for joy. And now I'm like, okay, I'm dating for real. So it was a Monday. I decided I'm ready for my relationship. And then on Tuesday night, in the middle of the night, I had this dream where I was giving my partner back the ring. And I was giving him back the ring in the dream. And he has a new partner. And she was there too. And it was beautiful. And the ring actually alchemized into a sapphire, which is interesting. It was blue. What do you think about that?
So blue sapphires are incredibly potent stones.
Yes.
It's interesting because sapphires are almost as hard as diamonds. Hard stones really work with us on that soul level. Old programs and, help us to kind of heal things that feel like they've been with us for lifetimes. And blue is a frequency that really does have a lot to do with faith and spirituality. And so it feels like returning it and it having transformed that, you can read your dreams in so many different ways, but it's definitely a beautiful message you could read there of the shift from romantic love into seeing the beauty of how you guys helped each other heal and grow in the time that you were together. And like, it's a peaceful frequency, right?
Wow. Wow.
We think of blue and it's like the ocean, the sky, like these things that feel vast and somewhat unknowable, but at the same time comforting.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful. Yeah. I was like, well, I didn't really know the symbolism. There is some symbolism too. My mom's remarried, my parents divorced, and her second ring was a sapphire in it too. So that was also something for me in seeing it transform into a sapphire. And so in the dream and my half waking state, my guides were like, give him back the ring. Like they would not leave me alone. I was like, I'm going to. They were like, give this man back the ring. I'm like, I will, chill. Okay. So I was like, that week, I just wanted to sit with it for a little bit. I'm like, what does this mean? I wanted to be mindful. I also didn't want to have it bring up something. I don't know. I want to be mindful that where I'm at is not where someone else is at. That if I have this desire, maybe someone else might be thrown off by it or something, but it ended up perfectly. He ended up taking it back.
Like his willingness to receive it back.
Yes. Yeah. Like, cause I'm like, I know I'm processed with it, but I don't know if he's processed with it and if that would hurt his feelings or make him feel bad, but it was great. He ended up taking it. And then, a few days later I met someone that I was like super excited about, super into. So it was a really beautiful just message for me of the beauty of karma, listening to our intuition, and then also with our jewelry and these pieces that hold energy, especially an engagement ring.
Yeah.
Like it holds so much. Have you seen that in your process with the work that you do, that these pieces hold a frequency or they hold like just an energy beyond what we can sort of see and feel?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I am creating in the pieces that I do. But I oftentimes with custom work will work with engagement rings or family pieces that we want to bring into present time.
Yeah.
Especially an engagement ring, that's a promise. It's a bond. And it's an energetic connection that you're still in relationship with by holding on to that piece.
Yeah.
It's like a physical embodiment of that communion that you two entered into.
Yeah.
And so I love that you listen to your intuition on this because it's so important. I think when we're calling in a new partner, the main thing that we can do is create space.
Yeah.
We can't control when and how we're going to meet them per se, but we can do the energetic work on our side to create space, to cultivate that loving energy within ourselves. And oftentimes, I'll work with clients and we'll unset the stone and put it into a pendant or something else that feels present time for them, or they've returned the stone and we want to come up with another piece that now marks this new chapter for them. I worked with one woman on creating a self-marriage band.
Cool.
And so there's a lot of ways to work with it, but We do, we're all vibrational beings.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe there's any inanimate objects. I think everything holds energy. And this is a big part of why I love adornment so much, is that it's an opportunity to have a perspective shift around what's sacred in our lives. When we can bring, that perspective of letting the mundane be holy, this is a perspective shift that can change all of our relationships. Like, how can our daily acts become sacred? That ritual of adorning ourselves in the morning, it's creating a living altar on the body. We're arranging consciousness in form. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so engaging with these things in our daily life and bringing that awareness and loving presence to it really shifts the idea that things are disposable, that we're in this culture that now I think is about consuming, and we don't have the same relationship anymore to the gifts of the earth. And it's going to be really important that we shift that in the coming years. Yeah.
I love that idea of the living altar with the body and with jewelry and adornment. And what I love so much about our conversation was just your knowledge of like history and different cultures and societies and how they would adorn themselves. Like the Egyptians or the Greeks, like how were they using jewelry? What was like some of their experience with it?
Yeah. So I love this because I'm a geek about
I
the
love it.
jewelry history. But I think since prehistory, right? Like, we have some of the oldest pieces dating back to prehistoric times, and it was just a natural human instinct to adorn. We look at the beauty that we see in nature, and we want to find ourselves in that cosmic order, right? Like, we want to mirror back the beauty of the divine within ourselves. So, you see a spiral seashell and string it on a cord and put it on your body, and without knowing it, it's, the Fibonacci spiral, the sacred geometry that makes up all life. We want to find ourselves in that relationship to the earth and why we're here. And I think adornment is a way to feel a part of belonging here. To mirror that beauty we see in nature. And, so as cultures developed and grew, a lot of it was about protection early on. And so, the idea that we have these symbols and we have animals that really just carry energy, and we all kind of agree on that, right? Like, we see a fierce tiger's tooth or claw and we're like, oh yeah, that's I don't want to mess with that. So by adorning ourselves in something fierce, we can imbue ourselves with that energy and kind of be protected by that ally, the animal ally. Or in ancient Egypt, it was a lot about the evil eye, the eye of Horus. And so this was a protective eye that was casting back anything that wasn't for your highest good. And this appears in cultures around the world. And then as we progress further in time, a lot of it was devotional. And so the temple priestesses would adorn themselves to make a home for the goddess within themselves. And so like this idea that we want to welcome in more of the divine. And so we want to create a beautiful home for it. And so like through the chiming of the bangles and the light refraction in the stones, through wearing the earth's gifts, it's really acknowledging like a temple on the body that then the divine can enter. And a lot of, adornment is a ritual practice. And so when, shamans and priestesses would engage in healings or in ritual, they would adorn themselves to imbue that energy into the ritual. This is really important. I think that, as I said, like we can have a perspective shift around saying, oh, I want to see these things in my life as sacred, but we have to walk through that opening. Like ritual allows us to actually come into communion with it. It's sort of like, how do I say this? So in nature, day doesn't just suddenly turn to night. There's a sunset. there's this liminal space that kind of brings us from daytime consciousness into nighttime consciousness. And so ritual acts as this kind of space, right? So it'll invite us through the doorway into feeling that communion. And so a part of it was to dress in the energy of that which you're enacting. So whether that's the priestess enacting, a ritual of Hieros Gamos and wanting to come into being the goddess of love, or whether that is a shaman going into a healing and really wanting to put on all protective things. So they would put on coats that had tons of little tiny mirrors and reflective stones on them, because mirrors are very reflective and they send things back. So that's protective. Like if an energy was coming at you that is not for your highest good, the mirror just sends it right back. They wore obsidian, which is another stone of guardianship. It's like a really rich iron stone that is like the core of the earth is iron. So this is really grounding. Black stones in general kind of relate to the unknown, being able to walk in the mystery. And so obsidian was a really powerful stone for guardianship, for being able to walk between worlds. And so there's oftentimes as well with animal spirits, as we said, like adorning yourself in a tooth or a fang or a claw of an animal would help you to imbue that energy into you. It wasn't just a metaphor. It was like actually wanting to walk with that ally. And then as we shifted into, the last few hundred years, adornment has been a lot about showing your wealth, your status. But we can't negate the fact that it's also about beauty. And I actually think that beauty medicine is really powerful and really deep. And it gets a bad rap because people like to suppress the feminine. And I think that beauty invites devotion. Like when you stand in a field with all the wildflowers in bloom and you see that kind of beauty, you just feel like awe that we get to live on an earth like this. Even in New York City, and you just see that one dandelion like peeking through the two slabs of concrete. And it's like, oh, I just want to stand here and make sure that no one's like tramples on this dandelion. Like it invites that kind of wonder and awe and devotion that, is so beautiful. And so when we create beauty within ourselves, we're sort of acknowledging that we are beautiful. We belong here. We're part of nature. And so I always want to kind of defend just
I love
the aspect that feels like vanity. Because there are so many deeper layers to that, and we should all feel beautiful. And so it's shifted in modern times, and that's where I like to bring the conversation back to some of these deeper layers and allow adornment to be a ritual that can bring us back into our sense of like sovereignty and divine
divinity.
Yeah.
I love the call on the beauty. I remember we interviewed Zach Bush. It was like a year or so ago, and he was like in full channel mode. We were like, what is like the point of being here? And he's like, it's not love, it's beauty. Because like on this experience, like it's like love isn't the, you know what I mean? We experience love quite a bit, but that's not the frequency. And it just really made me rethink beauty and how powerful it is. And I think we think of beauty from the one context, like you were talking about, of vanity, of looking a certain way, of what social media may portray, but it's so different than that. And I love the point about beauty in the feminine, the feminine being just the natural beauty and beauty embodied. So how do you see the feminine? How do you see our relationship to the feminine right now?
That's a deep question. So much of my work and my devotional practice is about the divine feminine. It just always has been. And I feel that creating adornment that adorns souls and finding their beauty is the best way that I can be in a practice of honoring that. I think that the feminine is going to look different to each person. And I think it's up to each of us to learn what that feels like within our own body, within our own practices. And this is adornment is a practice of creating beauty on the body. So for me, I tend to be sort of up here in these, states of talking to the divine and seeing a lot of things and feeling like I can easily sort of float out of body. And so having this practice really helps me come back in and feel somatically where I'm at. And with the feminine, it's a lot about being in the mystery. And to some extent, we're uncomfortable with that in the current collective times. And so coming into a state of really deep listening with the body helps uncover that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I do think it's funny because there's so many women I know want to be more in their feminine. And it's like the desire to feel more feminine, feel more embodied. But it feels like it's coming at it from the lens of wanting to be out of burnout and overproductivity and overdoing. It's almost like the overfunctioning is wanting to create a safe space to land. And they're seeing that as the feminine. And a lot of women are overfunctioning and more in their masculine as a way to find safety. But I don't think you can really be in the feminine until you feel safe, so finding that safety in the body is so huge, and finding that safety within ourselves was really a lot of the path for me, because I was a lot in my masculine for a while and it was very successful. I was very successful in my masculine, and then coming into my feminine is just a different experience. It created new relationships, new romantic relationships, new friendships. Like my whole life just sort of shifted in this way. My guides even shifted when I stepped into my feminine, but it's such a nice experience to live in it. And it's like such a felt sense, I feel.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. I have that dance as well. I run my business, highly intuitive. I live on my own in a cabin in the mountains and have to do a lot for myself and be in my masculine sometimes in that space. And yet doing that allows me the space to really tune in and to be in my feminine practices. And so I think it is a real balance. And coming into my feminine for me these days is a softening to some extent. But the feminine is also really fierce and really strong and really resilient. It's those qualities within ourselves that's willing to go into the deepest dark. Like the womb space is this, in the Taoist lineage, it's like the space of no thing, like the space before time, right? It's this like infinite, connection to the cosmos, like that. In order for something to exist, there first must be space for it. And so there's a little bit of this kind of overwhelming mystery there in the feminine. And so getting comfortable with walking through those spaces means, shadow work. It means really looking at a lot of the places where we are out of misalignment, but also slowing down, resting, like being in nature, deep listening, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that for me, that's where I'm sitting with the feminine these days. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the point of the shadow work. And I feel like in the collective too, people are, it's like they're doing a lot of shadow work, but it's almost from the lens of continuing to affirm their limiting beliefs, or it's almost like from a limiting beliefs perspective, or a way of like finding things they hate about themselves and then seeing that as shadow work. It's been interesting to kind of witness, but for me, the shadow work has always been, what are the things that are the most gross that I hate, that I'd love to hate about myself? Like, what are the things I'd love to hate about myself, my experience, who I am? What are the things I'm ashamed of? What are the things I feel guilty about? Where can I find more humanity in the darkness? Where can I find more comfort in the aspects of our experience that I would normally find grotesque or off or weird? How do you see shadow work?
So I think it starts with being willing to see, right? So right there of just, seeing the spaces in our life that are out of alignment, the spaces in our life that still need tending, need growth. But then the deeper layer is offering forgiveness to that. I think that that's where I would never invite shadow work just for the sake of wallowing in the places that we don't love about ourselves. The intention is actually to see all of ourselves so that we can offer it love, so that we can forgive ourselves for the places and times in our life where we didn't know better, or we needed to be in a certain frequency to keep ourselves safe. You know, a lot of the old stories that we have, when it's time to let them go, I thank them. Like, you got me here. You kept me safe through times in my life where I didn't know what else to do. And so you can offer that level of forgiveness and then offer the love. And it's not an immediate thing, right? Like I totally acknowledge that there are things that I will be revisiting probably for the next few lifetimes. And all I can do is be willing to show up for it. And in that space, I know there's grace. Like, I know that if I'm willing to show up and just be present with myself and my wholeness, that is what I can do today. And if I get to a space where forgiveness comes and, self-love comes, and I remember that well of grace, that like I'm a part of all of the divinity here, that like we're all, like that reservoir of love doesn't exist outside of us. Like in each of us, we can access that state of love, and it's our choice to give it to ourselves or give it to others. And I don't always reach that place with shadow work, but that's the invitation. It's just the very first step to kind of be in full presence with the things that feel hard or out of alignment.
Be willing to see.
Yeah.
I think is a really good one. And I always think with shadow work too, I'm like, most of the work is seeing. I was like, once you've seen what the thing is that you're shameful, feel guilty about, or that thing that was running in the background that you couldn't see before, that's so much of the work, is just actually seeing it. It's so much less about taking the action and doing the things. I trust that with my sight that it will alchemize on its own.
Yeah.
And it will move.
Powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. With the suppression of the feminine and sort of over time, like the wisdom and the magic, how do you see that? Like, how have you seen that in history? How do you see that happening now? Because women have always been the wisdom keepers. We've always been like the priestesses, like you said. How do you see that?
We're uncomfortable with that which we don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think the feminine is often the keepers of that which we don't understand, the mystery. And I think that there's a really deep invitation collectively right now for all of us to get more comfortable with the unknown. And I do believe that that's happening. I see it happening in my community. I see it happening in little small acts, I feel like the feminine, how do I want to put it? I do believe that our awareness of the way we perceive, like all things exist in relationship. And I think that collectively we're going to be going through a really big deathing cycle around the way we perceive certain things. And there's an invitation right now to be really open to the mystery, to the unknown.
When you say that, what do you mean? Like a prediction, like a cycle? What do you mean by that?
I feel that we're going through a time where we're shedding a lot of the old ways, and it's disruptive. We see that happening all around us. I think that it's a time where we all really need to come into our highest selves. Like we really need to look at what's happening around us and take action in whatever way we can, whether that's the internal alchemy, whether that's speaking through your community, through your work, through your art. And I think that it's, a clear ending of one way of being. And as things get harder, I think over the next year, I do feel like there's still some turmoil ahead. We have an election coming up. We have situations all around the world that are really, really hard to witness. That we have to believe that there's coming through on the other side, right? Like, I think we have to believe that there's an opportunity that collectively we can wake up to a new way of being. And so that's what I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a lot of shifts happening. It's almost like we've been talking about it for so long, though, that I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I thought this was going to happen years and years ago. But my prayer, and I think my thought is that I'm hopeful it'll be more gentle than we think, or I'm hopeful that because I've been conscious or awake, that I will not get the brunt of all of the things, you know what I mean? That I'm not like fully asleep and in it.
Yeah.
But I think there's been transitions we've been talking about for a long time spiritually that are really now happening. And from my perspective, I think things are getting better and better in the life of my own and the life of many people that I know. And I'm just hopeful that we can kind of continue, on that path. I feel like when we talk about, back to the jewelry thing, when we talk about jewelry and adornment, a lot of that has to do with stones. And I feel like people, what are your thoughts on stones and crystals and their meaning and their energy and their aspects? Because I think people are attracted to them naturally. But what would you say to someone that doesn't believe in the power of or the energetics of stones and crystals?
Yeah. And there are a lot of people who see working with stones for healing in a light that's like woo-woo.
Yeah.
Although woo is a term for a medicine woman in indigenous cultures. So it's actually, for me, really interesting because crystals are in our technology.
Yeah.
They keep time in our watches. Yeah. They're the memory chips in our computers. And so we're willing to be aware of them scientifically for their capacity to hold information, for them to harmonize and keep time. Minerals are what feed the plants in the soil, and the plants feed us. So science-based, we know that minerals do a lot. So I think it's interesting that, then the shift over into seeing them in a light where they would hold energy feels so out there.
I know.
But I love it. Like, I love having that conversation because it's all an invitation, right? And one doorway in for you may not be the, same one for me. So what I would say with the energy of stones is, to your point as well about things feel like they've been happening for a long time. It takes millions of years for a stone to form in the earth. And what I love about the Taoist practice, the lineage that I practice, is that it's really earth-based. It's really about looking at the way a stone was formed in the earth, how hard it is, what color it is, what its chemical makeup is. All of these things tell a story that help us understand what its energetic signature is going to be. And when we're talking about the way we feel things vibrationally, it's like when somebody walks into a room and they either light up the room, you really feel them, like they're smiling, they have this energy that you can sense, or somebody walks in and they are it looks like they have a dark cloud over them and you can really sense that energy. I feel that with stones, with plants, I feel everything has a living vibration. And when we're engaging with metals and stones from the earth, we're picking up on that vibration. And so the crystal structure of a stone is talking to our DNA, and it's giving us the blueprint for a new way of being. So pearls, for example, are a wonderful, stone to look at for the way they're formed, because it's actually an irritant that gets in the shell with the mollusk. And instead of rejecting it, pushing it out of the shell, the mollusk actually wraps it in layer after layer of this soft, beautiful, luscious nacre until over like 6 years, a glowing pearl is wrapped around this little piece of sand or nucleus that got inside the shell. And so it's this metaphor for unconditional love, for acceptance of the things that we can't change that might be hard. And through that alchemy of offering it love, offering it what we can each day, that it can be transformed into something beautiful that carries its own inner light. And so when we look at the way a stone is formed in the earth, we can really understand how that energetic is going to work with us in our field.
Can I have more examples of that? I love the pearl example. So it's like representing unconditional love in the way that it's made. What about a stone like an amethyst or like a rose quartz? Like what about some of like the stones that people know about in the way that they were made and what they represent?
Yeah. So quartz is an amazing stone to look at because it's a fairly hard stone, but it's kind of in the middle. So it works with us on soul level things, but it also kind of works with us like harder stones are working with those denser things, right? The soul level things. The medium hard stones are working with us. We call this the metamorphic layer. And this is like our emotions, the things that are changing in our life, because that layer of the earth is where a lot of movement happens. The plates are shifting, the water is moving. And then, the surface level of the earth, the earth's crust, the stones that are formed there are going to work with us more on like the things that are happening right now in our daily reality. They're going to be faster acting. And so you can kind of look at those layers. And so quartz having formed in this, it's a 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. So it can work with us on our emotions, but it also has that power to go deep into the soul level. It has a trigonal crystal structure. Quartz is a stone that is a record keeper. We know this because it's in our technology and it stores information. This means that on the spiritual level, it can store our prayers. It's in the Hidden Messages in the Water book, this beautiful book where he photographs the water, the crystals that form in the water when it's exposed to different types of prayer or
pictures of Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Like you
curse
see,
words.
right.
Yeah.
So we see that. And
so basically, sorry, just to break that down. So that was Masaru Emoto.
Yeah.
Wrote a book took very close-up pictures of water after water had been spoken to negatively, water exposed to photos of Jesus, the words beautiful, different situations and circumstances, and the crystallization of the water structure would change based on what it was exposed to, which says a lot about our own body and structure and mind because we're made up of water.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, things that were exposed to prayer had these really beautiful, clear formations, and things that were exposed to negative things were like
broken.
Didn't have a clear crystal structure. And so quartz stores our prayers, right? It's a stone that will record what it's exposed to. And so it's beautiful for setting intentions, for manifestation work. The Taoists believe that stones that are transparent to light also work with us on more spiritual aspects, whereas stones that are opaque are going to work with us more on the physical level, like more dense challenges. And quartz is also a harmonizer, because it keeps time in our watches, right? It's like the crystal structure orders things. And so it helps us to take what we're working with and add some time release, some order to it, harmonizing the healing journey. And so we can set a prayer, sort of what we said before about when we want to receive our lessons a little bit more gently. That can be the prayer, right? That I'm here, I'm listening. I don't need a thunderbolt to get the message or go through that initiation this time. We can set that intention. And so rose quartz has a little bit of magnesium in it. And this, or manganese, excuse me. So this is going to be related to our heart blood. And
oh, wow. So the manganese is in the heart blood.
Yeah, the manganese is actually in the heart blood. And so this is what, creates that idea of seeing with the eyes of the heart. So rose quartz is a really beautiful stone for perspective shifts. It's like the rose-colored glasses saying. So if we can see things differently, we can see with the eyes of the heart, it sort of opens up our reality to that. So it's a really beautiful stone for that type of healing. And then amethyst is also in the quartz family. And this beautiful purple color is, it's a stone that's said to be the only stone that can hold the frequency of the violet flame, which is like this really purifying energy that comes in and is really about protection and clearing out what no longer serves. And that's really important for a space like the third eye. We can relate that chakra color as well with amethyst. So our clear sight. So purifying out, technology, like the things that we're overexposed to, and helping us to wake up more of our inner intuition and inner priestess.
And is the violet flame, remind me, is the violet flame just a spiritual phrase? It doesn't actually exist.
So in esoteric healing, there are different rays that can come into the body and offer their healing. And so this ray is the seventh ray in that, and it is not something that everyone is going to perceive, but it's definitely something you can call on. So I actually also love calling on the energetics of a stone. You can call on a healing frequency to come into the body, and even just visualizing that is a really beautiful practice. It's calling on the holographic principle that like this energy can enter your field through internal alchemy, through inviting that energy field to come into resonance with yours.
Okay, one of the most commonly asked questions I get about pregnancy, postpartum, et cetera, is what prenatal I'm taking. I'm still taking a prenatal. It's super important. I'm also breastfeeding. But during my pregnancy and even prior to my pregnancy, I was taking Ritual. Ritual is essential for women, prenatal multivitamin. It's designed to deliver 12 key nutrients for pregnancy in just 2 daily capsules, which I love. When you're pregnant, especially in that first few months, that first trimester, we don't want to take pills. We are nauseous and we don't feel well. But it was really easy to take. It actually has a citrus essence tab in the jar, so it tastes good actually, which is really, really nice. But you really have to make sure that your prenatal multi has everything you need. And Ritual has done their research and make sure that all the ingredients are bioavailable and science-backed, really key nutrients like methylated folate and nature identical choline to support baby's neural tube development. Very important. Omega-3 DHA for brain and early vision development will support mom and baby. Vitamin D to support fetal bone health. And also each capsule features a delayed release designed to help make it really gentle on your stomach. This is Clean Label Project certified, and they're also testing all of their products. So just minimizing consumer exposure to chemicals and contaminants like heavy metals, pesticides, residues, and more. So I love Ritual. I trust them. It's really important that you know what you're putting into your body, especially when you're pregnant. And with Ritual's dedication to traceable science and sourcing, you always will. So see for yourself with 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/almost30. That's ritual.com/almost30. Okay, I just did some of my holiday shopping and I was really happy to just do a one-stop shop for a handful of people in my life. And I was on the Skims website, baby, specifically their Skims holiday shop. It is live now and I'm very excited for you to jump in there. I don't know about you, but like shopping can be overwhelming for me. So when I jumped in that shop, I was like, oh, I can get some things for my husband and my brother, and I can get some stuff for my sisters and some of my BFFs. I think I went crazy on the Fits Everybody packs. So they have bra and underwear packs that I actually did get for myself too. It includes the Scoop bralette, which is my favorite bralette ever. I'm actually wearing one right now. They are so soft, so comfy, come in great colors and patterns, specific for holiday too, which is very sweet. And they come in the cutest boxes made for like easy stocking stuffers. You are going to love, love, love. You don't even have to wrap anything. So nice. So in addition to the Fits Everybody packs, I just wanted to shout out some other things I am absolutely loving. Their knit sock, so cozy. I'm wearing them everywhere. Also the men's boxer 3-pack. Husband absolutely loves. Lots of cozy things in here, lots of holiday themes. So shop the Skims holiday shop, baby, at skims.com/almost30. Available in styles for women, men, kids, and even pets. That's right. If you haven't yet, be sure to let them know we sent you. So after you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. That's skims.com/almost30.
Yeah.
What are the other rays?
So there's a
Many
whole
rays.
slew. Yeah, I feel like we could go on a whole
I know. I'm
tangent
like, what are
here.
your favorite
Yeah.
rays? I actually don't know. I've heard of the violet flame. I've had it appear in healing, but I didn't know. Yeah, I
It's
didn't know.
associated with Saint Germain, who's an ascended master.
Yep. Classic.
And his twin flame, Lady Nada. She's the pink ray. So we could go really deep
I love that.
on that. But I think also just color in general is a really beautiful way in for somebody who's approaching stones and is like, I don't know, that's a lot of information. I don't want to Google the chemical structure and the crystal structure of a stone. Just look at the color. You know, you could align that with the chakra system. You could also just feel in your own body, like what does red mean to you? Like, what do you think of?
Sensuality, pleasure, desire.
Yeah. What if there was a season you would associate?
Fall.
Fall.
Is that weird?
No. So
I'm like, sometimes I'm not going with the grain.
No,
So,
I love this. So red in the Taoist lineage is actually like this time right now.
Wow.
Because it's like
autumn-y?
It's pre-autumn, right?
Yes.
It's like the harvest. It's kind of this moment where everything is so ripe on the tree, like the fruit's like falling into your hand. It's so ripe and ready. It's that sensuality of like biting into a juicy peach and letting it like roll down your chin. These are heart stones. These are stones of like really embodiment, the juiciness of life. Right. So you can pick up any stone and look at the color and kind of read quickly into that, like green stones, you know, green grass, springtime, regeneration, renewal.
Abundance.
Yeah. We've got this energy that comes through at that time of year. Again, we talked about the blue stones, so much about faith and resurrection and returning, sanctity after experiencing traumas or times of loss. This would be a winter stone. You know, white stones in general are associated with late fall. That's the metal element, which is, you know, a time where we watch all the trees let go their leaves. Like there's some letting go, there's some grieving in that time. But it's also like a beautiful transition into the quieter months. And so you can really quickly look at, you know, the stone's color and glean what it's going to feel like for you. Yeah.
How do you see ascended masters? Are there any ones that you love and work with?
Yeah. I have
Who's your crew?
a team. Yeah. I've got a team. I am very much Mary Magdalene, Sisters of the Rose, Mother Mary.
What's Sisters of the Rose?
So the Rose lineage is a Magdalene lineage, and it's really about love. And within this, it's, you know, Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene. It's a lot of the divine feminine. Yeshua would be included in this. And I also feel my soul has spent many lifetimes in Egypt. So for me, there's Isis, Nut.
Who's Nut?
So Nut is the goddess of the night sky.
Cool.
And in the Hathor temple in Egypt, you know, her body is arced over the entire ceiling. And in her body is depicted all of the stars and the whole zodiac, each sign. And she's always bowing over her lover Geb, which is the earth. And so I often love also, I'm calling in partnership myself. And so I work with the Inanna and Dumuzi, Isis and Osiris, the lovers,
Yes.
the pairs.
Who are Inanna and Dumuzi? I don't know them.
So Inanna is a Mesopotamian goddess,
Cool.
Sumerian, kind of goddess of the heavens. She is very much associated with sexuality and fertility. And it was the joining of her and her beloved that fertilized the land. So it was this ritual act every year to bless the land. So, right, the metaphor of like the male watering the seed of the female. And so their lovemaking was incredibly important in this way. And the myth of Inanna is that her dark twin, her shadow self, kidnapped her beloved and took him down into the underworld. And so the Queen of Heaven had to descend down to save him. And at each gate, she gave one of her adornments over. And it's this beautiful metaphor for our adornments may not be physical things, right? They might be things that like our soul is adorned in our daily practice. Like our soul is adorned in the love of our husband. Our soul is adorned in dog hair. like the things that like we could adorn ourselves in the droplets of water from our morning swim each day. So this idea that as we're human beings on earth, like we're collecting these adornments, and that when we do our shadow work, sometimes it's about shedding. So the things we're willing to let go of. And so as she descends each of the 8 gates, she gives of her earthly adornments. And so that story is one that I've really walked with for a long time, especially in terms of like sacred union and willingness to kind of be in your full earthly embodiment and juiciness and sensuality, but also be able to shed layers that don't serve. And what are we willing to do for that kind of love?
It's so interesting. I was thinking about in history how often the woman is split and her shadow self is split. It's like, in the Bible, there's Eve and then there's the Black Lilith.
Yeah. And
the Black Lilith is like the shadow side of Eve as the pure feminine being. And it was more in like the book of Judaism, where they found Black Lilith. But it's interesting how that's happened quite a bit. Even Isis she has a twin, correct?
Yeah. I mean, Isis has her own resurrection story.
Or is it Kali hasn't? Is Kali the shadowy one, the rage one of?
Yeah. So Kali's kind of a Death Eater. She's like, I'll burn your house down so you'll be liberated.
Yes.
It's that kind of
energy.
I
had a friend that was working with Kali energy and her house burnt down.
Yeah.
She was like, I was working a little too hard with Kali. My house literally burnt down.
Yeah. I had a fire in my place in New York.
No way.
Yeah.
Because you were working with her?
So I was not specifically working with Kali, but I had laid down some really deep prayers about wanting to be of service and wanting to be deeper on my path. And Spirit came right in and cleared the deck.
Talk that talk. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
So many people are like, I want to be of service. I want to live on purpose. I want to do these things. And then their house burns down and they're like, nope, just kidding. Don't want this. I say that to God all the time. I'm like, I surrender. And I'm like, one eye open, one eye closed. I'm like, God's like, you're not surrendered. I'm like, I'm surrendered if it looks this specific way.
Yeah.
Because when you really surrender, your house is going to burn down.
It could. It might not. Yeah. But it was very hard. And at the same time, when you go through things like this, we know there are initiations. Like there's beauty on the other side. There's beauty in the moment, right? At the time, it feels so hard, and you have to grieve, and you have to go through the actual muck of it all.
Yeah.
But it does clear the deck. Like it's a clean slate. It's a new beginning. And for me, spiritually, I really needed that. I lived in a rent-controlled apartment in prime Williamsburg. You don't give up those places. So Spirit came in and was like, we need you to get out of here. And it was beautiful because I've always been somebody as an artist that collects a lot of things and has, art on the walls and, little bits and bobs from my travels. And it put me in an apartment for 6 months afterwards with just a blow up mattress and a tea bowl and my kettle. And I found a tea practice, Cha Dao, the way of tea. And it's this really beautiful practice of meditating with tea in the mornings and connecting to nature, connecting to self, connecting to other if you're there with another person. And it's so much simplicity. You boil the water, you pour it in the pot, you steep the leaves, it's your breath, fire, water. It's just these elements. And I was in an empty room with white walls. And I really met myself for the first time in a long time. Like I had changed a lot over that period of time. And I hadn't slowed down enough to really meet the current me. And I had just 6 months of, a little blow up mattress, white walls, and my teapot, and was allowed to find out who I was in present time. And it was hard. I didn't fully find my way for maybe another 2 years after that. I moved to California, and the first year here, I was like, what did I do? I miss New York so much. I'm like starting over from scratch. I had been working out of a goldsmithing studio in New York that I apprenticed at and taught at for years that focuses on ancient and classical goldsmithing. And it was a really beautiful community. So to leave that felt really challenging. And I came out here and had to just get all of my own equipment and set it all up. But even within that, I realized that the work was requiring more of me, working in sacred adornment. When I'm working on these pieces, it's an act of prayer, like each step, I'm really imbuing the pieces with that energy. And sometimes for custom work with clients, that can look really unique. I work with affirmative prayer. So I'm visualizing them, if the intention that they have is to meet their partner, right? So I'm working on the piece and I'm really affirming that the universe is bringing this person towards them. And getting in this state, I'll ask for a playlist sometimes. So like I'm really cultivating an environment that's nurturing those seeds for my clients. And I couldn't do that in a shared New York studio space. I was going in at night and trying to like do all my ritual work, it's
like,
yeah. So that was also this really clear invitation. Yeah. So you lay down the prayers and you got to be willing
to ride it.
Follow it. Yeah, just surrender and trust.
I literally was so inspired by the notion of slowing down to meet the version of you that existed because you had changed so much. And I just feel that so powerfully, cellularly for myself and for our audience, because so many of the women that are listening are in deep prayer and growth and transformation. It's a lot of what we do here is in support of growth and transformation.
Yeah.
But being in support of you spending time with the version of yourself that you've become is so stunning. I think about myself, I'm like, wow, and being in this single season, I have the time to meet myself and be with myself. I've found that it's been really beautiful before bed. I go to bed so early, but I will go to bed not fully tired. Like normally I would go to bed within 3 minutes, I'm asleep. Like it was actually like alarming. My Aura ring was like, is everything okay? You fall asleep too fast. But now I'll go to bed a little bit earlier than when I'm tired so I can have time with myself and I can just let my mind wander and I can just be with myself to think and notice what I think about and notice what I ruminate on and talk to myself and process the day and like just spending time with myself in bed. Like I'll be like, what happened today? How are we feeling? Let's replay this. Let's watch this. Let's notice what we daydream about. Let's notice what we think about. But
I just love that practice. And I think that so many women could benefit from like even having a dinner with this version of yourself. Like, what are you like right now? What are you interested in? How are you showing up? Like, how are you feeling about your life instead of being so focused on maybe the past version or the future version?
100%. Yeah. And I found myself surprised, like even checking in with what I wanted to eat again.
Wow.
And I think I also,
I know that was dramatic that I said wow, but these things are crazy to me.
well, we go through cellular
It's so
changeover
true. Yes.
as well in our lives. And
just assuming that, I just think the whole thing is just assuming that you'll be the same, like assuming the sameness of your experience in life and likes and desires for a long period of time is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, in my 20s, I was kind of wild. I played bass in an all-girl rock and roll band.
I could see that.
Waited tables and bartended. I was like kind of a cool rock and roll chick. And then I just shifted and it felt divinely timed. Like it felt like the right time to shift and grow. But it was like all of the psychic gifts that I was kind of drowning out reached a boiling point, and I just had to surrender over to this new way of being. I stopped drinking. I started meditating and praying in a really structured way. I think that previously I almost avoided meeting myself because meditation was a space where I felt like I met God, like I met the divine there, and met peace. And there needs to be like a little bit of an in-between to really meet yourself, I think, on some level, because like figuring out what you want to order now at a restaurant. Like, I don't smoke and drink anymore. I got to figure out what my taste buds want. And, just all of these interesting things that came up where like my sense of smell really changed after quitting smoking in my 20s. And, it's been 15 years from that time in my life, but I learned so much about giving yourself just that free time. And I know it's precious. I know we all live really busy lives, but I think now adornment for me is one of those ways that I get to play with that, because when we get dressed in the morning, we have an opportunity to kind of meet who we are that day and like put on the color that we want to be in alignment with, or put on our jewelry that carries our ancestors or our loved ones with us, or that, I have my Camargue cross, which is for Mary Magdalene. I have my fish, which is, actually in many traditions, it's resurrection, Yeshua. It's also the yoni in ancient traditions. But for me, I was researching my Song to the Siren collection, and was a lot about reclaiming the feminine archetypes of the sea, the siren, and Aphrodite. And I read that the Sanskrit term for goddess of love was she who has a fish as her emblem.
Wow.
And so I was like, yes, I would like to embody that.
Wow.
And so when we get dressed and we put on our adornments, it's like we get to choose what energies we're walking with. And so that can be a place to play and get to know ourselves again too.
Wow. And the symbols they speak to us on a conscious and subconscious level.
Yes.
Some of and that's why, I have decks, I have tarot decks with modern tarot. And the reason why I created them is because I just love the study of archetypes. I love that we study these images and symbols that have been passed down over time, that have been stored in our collective unconscious, that represent things that we can see, that we understand both consciously and unconsciously. And I love that with the archetypes too, as it relates to the feminine and women. What did you find about sirens? Because I've heard so many mixed things. I've heard that they're tricksters. I've heard that they're evil, but they're also very powerful.
Yeah. I mean, to me, are they evil? Are they tricksters? I mean, they're just being beautiful on their rocks, singing their songs. Like,
tempting the men though.
Well, but good on them, man. Like, you got invited onto the rocky island full of mermaids. Like, if that's how you go,
Yeah, so true.
So that's where I like to play a little bit with that, is that I'm not saying that there aren't energies out there that you want to have protection against. I do believe that there's polarity here for sure.
That's a good one.
But I do think that we can learn a lot from the archetypes when we play devil's advocate, right? We kind of dance with how has history portrayed them? Who is the historian?
It's a good
who's
one.
telling that story? You know, if the historian is an old white dude, like maybe we reassess what that version of history is. You know, and myths have been carried for generations and generations and generations because they're powerful. Our stories have meaning. They would not have survived the test of time orally being told over fires for thousands of years if they weren't meaningful to us, if they weren't carrying medicine. So this is really important, I think, to look at the way we've been in relationship with archetypes and find out if that's true for us. And what we can learn from it. And just also, like, I loved what you said earlier. Like, sometimes it's not about the doing. Sometimes it's just letting it move and live through you. Like Roke's, like walking with the question, living with the question. So just by kind of letting an archetype or a story walk with you, just seeing how that alchemizes within your field, within your interactions. And the siren was really potent for me because there were so many depictions in jewelry and in art that were of the siren with the two tails. And so her legs are split, displaying her vulva. And this is a really bold forward image. Like, it's really of the feminine, of sexuality. And then it was, funnily enough, like adopted by the Christian church and carved into a lot of stones over sacred sites. It's like this kind of protective deity. And so, like, as if it's like this fierce sort of like monster, you know, almost. So I always want to kind of re-invite some of those maligned archetypes to the table and say, like, you know what? I want to sing like a siren. Why not? You know, like, let's see what happens. And it's our responsibility, of course, to move with energies, with integrity, with authenticity. But we can also play a bit and trust that the people in our lives are also in their integrity and know how to handle it and say yes or no. Right. So anyway.
Yeah. When I was in Ibiza, there was siren energy in the water. It's like, wow, this is very, very interesting. How do you see spiritual protection? You know, if people want to protect themselves spiritually, they feel like they're in need of protection. What would you suggest they do? And how do you view spiritual protection or energetic protection?
Yeah. So I think this is very real.
I do too.
I have dreamed actually in the last few weeks of black tourmaline a lot. And this is one of my favorite stones for psychic protection. Tourmalines, scientifically, they're piezoelectric, which means they emit a force field. It's measured. And so these stones are creating an energy field around us. And black tourmaline, again, those black stones being really protective, connected to the core of the earth. You know, this is going to create a field where I went through years where I wore just black tourmaline on my ears because I'm very sensitive. And, you know, our ears and eyes are where we take in the world. We receive so much information.
I think 86% of our processing comes through the eyes and the rest is through the ears.
Yeah. So what we place here has a real impact and can filter what we're perceiving and receiving from the world. So black tourmaline would be a really big one. Obsidian is an incredible stone for protection. I would say as well that it's important to get to know your guardians. So personal guardianship, this could be honoring your ancestors, getting to know if there's someone who wants to be in your field and helping you with this, calling on them. I actually had a really sweet reading with one of my mentors, Caroline, a few weeks ago. And I said, has your grandmother passed? And I said, yeah, she did. She said, well, she's here. I was like, oh, just something she want to say? She's like, oh, she's just listening in. And I was like, that's so funny. It's like my Southern grandmother is just eavesdropping on my
and she's just like, I'm just here to witness.
Like, it just sounded juicy. I was just going to be here. But then she followed up and said, but I'm always here if you need me, if you need anything, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes
I had a grandma one time. She's like, I just like to watch. She's like, I just like to watch what you're up to.
Yeah.
I'm like, for her, she's like, I don't really know what's going on with this life. Like, she's like, I just like to witness. I'm like, yeah.
Which is so sweet. But we could also give them a job. We could also say like, hey, I'm going into this situation. Could you offer your loving presence? And, you know, so we can also get to know, through our spiritual traditions. I think that it's important when we're in a new age sort of idea with spirituality that we actually find anchors within it so that we do have things to call on, right? And so this is going to be different for each of us. And that might even be that you have a real kinship with animals and that you have an animal guardian that wants to walk with you. I'm not saying you have to be in a specific religious practice, but calling upon energies that you can say, like, you know, even, you know, Mother Mary, Divine Mother, I'm about to take this trip. I'm, you know, anxious about X, Y, and Z, or I'm feeling great about it. But if you could just watch my back, if you could send me a sign if something is about to happen that I need to watch out for, you know, you can ask for help, but you can call on your guardians. And it's also about creating, you know, space in a way that's mindful. So I think especially with a lot of the new age things now, we forget that we need to create a strong container for the work that we're doing. And it can be simple, right? It's like, so let's say we're having a birthday party for somebody. We're going to like put up balloons and we're going to play fun music. We're going to create the space. So if you're going to do a journey at home, create the space, like, you know, set yourself up so that you've cleared that space of anything that feels like it's not present time, that it's not serving the highest good. You've called on your guardians, you've called on the ancestor, you know, whatever it is that you need to do to ritually create a safe container for you to do those things in. So all of that I feel is really vital when we're talking about protection. And on the body, you know, again, I think that anywhere you feel that you receive a lot would be the placement where you would want to put your protection. You know, shield and sword kind of work around the heart, like these kinds of energies. You know, you could do a black tourmaline or an obsidian even here as well. And some people find that the inverse is true, that like by putting a rose quartz or really like pure loving presence there is its own protection. So trust your intuition always, especially when it comes to your body and like our somatic, we know in our bones what we need. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, it was the conversation around protection. It was like I was so focused on protection for a little bit that I think the energetic frequency behind it was fear. And so I had to come into a place where I had like an anchor of spiritual confidence within myself to not be afraid of anything and be able to go to the depths or see the dark or see evil or see, the things that I was most afraid of and realize that, you know, it didn't have the power over me. And now it's just so much easier to be going to places with my clients or going to places spiritually by myself because I know that like I'm unfuckwithable and that there's nothing that can really mess with me. And I think that also helped by recognizing that a lot of times when we have an entity or a negative guide or a thought form, that we've contracted that in our greatest good or in support of our path. That the negative guide or entity was actually desired by us to help us overcome it, to move forward towards our destiny or towards our fate. But I think people get really focused on protection. And I think I've found that when I focus more on my own alignment and my own frequency, being a vibration of love and of expansion and of joy, that kind of is its own protection. Like the best protection is your own healing, you know? Yeah. So just really focusing on that.
Well, and I think, you know, what you said reminded me of what we talked about with the challenging initiations, right? Like having the fire and these kinds of things. After you go through challenging stuff, you're like forged in the fire. So you do have this kind of inner protection of knowing that you'll be okay. You've got your own back. Like you can go through really hard things and come out on the other side. so I think that is really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And having a good relationship with your guides or your team or your ancestors is a really, really good one. I think the biggest thing for protection that I'll say is just consciousness.
Yeah.
It's like just noticing, okay, walked into a room, feel a little funky. Like I reject any thought form, entity, energetic frequency that doesn't serve my highest and greatest good. You know, like kind of just noticing, saying hello, saying goodbye, just being in your body, being in your intuitive senses to notice when things happen or shift, and then just making a decision based on that.
I love that, because I think actually that's the most important part of protection is knowing where the negative energies, like where do they ride in on?
Yep.
You know, so if you're looking at your phone for 20 minutes and then you feel icky, like, you know, that's a sign, you know. So yeah, you go into a room and there's an energy that you're feeling unsettled by. We really want to pay attention to the energetics and listening to our body. And yeah, like maybe we don't have that screen time. Maybe we
The screen is such a portal for that.
Yeah.
That's for me. You know, I had in past lifetimes, like many of us, spending time as a witch was, you know, killed for my voice. And then in this lifetime, I recognized that I was manifesting a negative thought form to keep me from speaking or keep me from being in my bigness. And I was having that validated and confirmed by watching YouTube videos of creators being canceled. Where I was like, went through this week where I was like, why am I watching these videos of these people being canceled?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's to affirm the belief that I have that if I speak my truth or if I am in my bigness, I will also be canceled. So it created this like energy where I was like manifesting in my reality the thought that I had about my own speaking of my truth.
Yeah. I mean, you have an incredible connection to the cosmos and the divine. When we did our reading, I was like, oh, wow, cool. And so those are the things you're going to face. You know, it's like when we have really heightened gifts in one area, we expect that our insecurities and our fears are going to be the bottom side of that barrel, right? So it's two parts of the same whole. And so it's beautiful. Like you acknowledge it. Yeah, we might have a week where we fall down the rabbit hole. And then if you're in your practices, you're paying attention, you catch it.
Yeah.
You know,
because it's always, and I think the very beginning, if we were to go, you know, we're here talking about protection and awareness and kind of the prayers. It's like to go back to the very beginning, meditation to create the witness state. Because the witness state allows you to do everything.
Yeah.
Because then I'm witnessing, ooh, I feel kind of funky. I'm noticing a pattern. Why am I watching these videos? What am I getting from it? Is this helpful for me? Is this helpful for my life? Okay, I'm noticing a pattern. What are we doing to affirm what belief? How is this impacting me? How is this, you know, affirming my belief of keeping myself small? But there was something I wanted to ask you just because we had our session that was so beautiful. You said that you were kind of running from your gifts before. What did that look like? And how did you step into them? Because I do feel like a lot of women listening feel like they have a lot of gifts. They have a lot of intuition. They have a lot of psychic abilities. I know that was my case for a long time. What did the running look like? And what was stepping into your power with it? What did that look like?
Yeah, I've been highly intuitive and sensitive my whole life. And my home life wasn't always easy. So by the time I was a teenager, I barely talked. I was completely introverted, extremely shy, and just had a real distrust of the world and relationships. And so it was a slow journey out of that. To be honest, I met my best friend, Paula, who is still my best friend. And it was like, I feel like we saved each other in a sense of having, you know, being truly seen by another person and someone that you feel safe to share with.
That was Lindsay for me.
Yeah. It's like those relationships really are gold. And, you know, within that though, we were both young and we both had, things that we were getting over, moving through. And so for me, it meant being a teenage runaway to New York and, picking up a bass and just kind of living a carpe diem lifestyle, which I don't regret. And I don't feel was, you know, out of alignment with my soul's growth. I think it was a big part of my story for sure. But drinking and overworking and being kind of in a state of burnout just was my way of not facing the deeper stuff. And I think the drinking also was a way to tune out the voices I was hearing, the things I was seeing. Oftentimes for me, it feels um, like a radio is in your head and the channels are getting turned and you're hearing a lot and seeing a lot. And so at that time I had no tools for that. I didn't even feel comfortable talking to anyone about this reality that I had. And my mom was always really sweet and supportive, and she would like take me to the local psychic to have a reading, or one of our neighbors did tarot cards with a plain deck of cards, and so she would like take me over there at night to meet her. So she wanted to nurture it, but it wasn't something that I was raised with any understanding of how to have energetic hygiene, how to ground myself, how to check in with what's mine, what's not mine, being empathic. And so as I moved through my 20s, I just had a series of those hard initiations that caused me to need to seek out teachers and healers who could give me those tools and create daily practices to support being a highly sensitive being, and also finding my path with my art. I came to goldsmithing and fell in love with it and had like goosebumps my first day in the studio, just having this deep past life remembrance. And that kicked off this level of devotion and desire to really create with all of my spiritual practice and my love of the divine and nature, and like with the gifts of the earth, stones and metals. And so it was one of the first steps as well to me changing my lifestyle. But it was scary at first. I think that a lot of people can relate. Like, we have these gifts, we see and hear things, but we don't know what to do with it. We don't know if it's for us, if we're overhearing it for somebody else. Like, we're feeling things in our body that might be picking up somebody 5 feet away from us on the subway train. And so it was a longer journey for me than maybe I would have liked it to have been. But once I found my teachers and the practices that really supported me, I never went back. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's living in your authenticity. It's like, what's authentic to you is having that connection, using that guidance. And I think it's been beautiful because with my one-on-one clients, it's like, because we're in container together, and it's like in the space of us, it's permission to be in my gifts and to be in my gifts. Because, before it was like, I have my gifts and my abilities, but there's not always permission. And I never want to overstep on someone else's free will. I want to always make sure that it's like people are willing to receive and able. And so it's nice to be in a space where I can really step into like healership and just psychic.
So beautiful.
Yeah, gifts.
Because it is about the container and it is about consent.
Yes,
so
that's
for me,
huge.
I learned to open and close the channel. I don't want to be a nosy psychic. I don't want to, make anybody uncomfortable. And so when we're in the space of doing a reading, there are prayers, there's work I do beforehand to open and close the container. There's the work we do together to open and close the container. And there's permission. And in that way, it's so healing to let it be a gift, let it be of service, and then to thank it and be able to go and walk my dog, right?
And leave it.
Yeah, and leave it.
Okay, as you can hear, I have a bit of a cold, so it is imperative that I'm getting enough sleep at night, deep, restorative sleep so that I can heal. And I wanted to share with you my sleep hack. So, Beam's Dream Powder is a science backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep. It is absolutely delicious, and it's changed the way I sleep for the better. Why? Because I am able to get really deep sleep, moving through all cycles of sleep without being disturbed, without waking up, staying asleep, and then waking up in the morning feeling really, really refreshed. Sometimes when I take anything for sleep, I feel a little weird in the morning. I don't know about you, but this is science-backed, it has natural ingredients, and it is delicious and it really, really works. This is a bedtime essential and it comes in different flavors. So I'm really excited for you to pick yours. They have sea salt caramel, brownie batter, vanilla chai, and the bean dream powder original flavor, which I love the most, which is cinnamon cocoa. No sugar. And again, like you are going to look forward to this every single night. What's in there? L-theanine, magnesium, apigenin, and melatonin. So all will help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. So as we enter this holiday season where sleep can be disrupted and you're having like giant holiday meals and holiday parties and you're just kind of like off track with your routine, insert Beam's Dream Powder into your routine and you will be sleeping like a baby, which will give you just all of the energy for whatever this holiday season has in store for you. And plus, they have some holiday flavors, white chocolate, peppermint, and gingerbread. Ooh, get them before they sell out. Never been a better time to try Dream. Their Black Friday sale is now live. This is the lowest that Dream has ever been sold for. So get up to 50% off when you visit shopbeam.com/almost30 and use the code almost30. Head over to the shop Beam. That's shopbeam.com/almost30. Use the code almost30 for up to 50% off before they sell out. That's shopbeam.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 for up to 50% off.
I think the opening and closing of the channel is huge too, because for most people that I work with, they have their channel open all the time. And so it gets confusing. And it's most of the work that we do when we talk about channeling is actually closing your channel so that you can open it and know the difference and feel what it feels like to have an open channel. And when I channel, I'm only channeling my highest self. I don't really channel anything else, any other beings, any other thought forms or entities. My highest self feels like the most aligned frequency and the most powerful of them all. I don't want to be in a space where I'm channeling something that could be dishonest or untruthful or anything like that. So that's kind of, and it's always felt really comfortable for me to be in highest self frequency. Like, it's my goal to be as much as I can in that.
Well, and that's the frequency that cuts through. Like authenticity cuts through everything else. Like we feel that in our bones. It's
truth.
Yeah, it's the truth. And I think, you know, in the distillation of that too, in our full essence, it is that divinity. You know, we aren't separate from the divine. So channeling your highest self is that source, right? It's so beautiful.
Want to talk about the planetary? What is the planetary alignments on the hands?
Yeah. So when we were talking about sacred adornment, which is how I practice making jewelry, the body placements can get really important and detailed and nuanced. Cool. First thing I'll say though is always trust what you feel is right on you. But one of the lineages that I love to work with is the Vedic palmistry. And so you can have placements on your hands to enhance certain energies or to balance certain energies. So for example, our pointer finger is our Jupiter finger. And this is going to be a really great placement for expansion, growth, manifestation work. Yellow stones really support this, yellow sapphire. But in general, you know, if you're manifesting something, you could place a ring there that feels like it's attracting that energy. And then our middle finger is our Saturn finger. And so we would create an adornment there that would support the structures in our lives, being there for our liberation and, you know, not our hindrance. You know, Saturn can sometimes feel constricting. And so it's like, how can those structures in our lives support our liberation? And then our fourth finger is the sun placement. And this is how we shine. Also our relationships, how, you know, how we're seen, you know, so that sense of shining, and that's like the sun's light is what gives us sight, right? It's like how we see in the day. So, allowing ourselves to be seen in the world, getting comfortable with that, how we relate to people. And it's also really interesting to me that that's fourth finger is like the wedding band finger. In Roman times, it was believed that there was like a special vein that went from the fourth finger to the heart.
Wow.
And that wearing adornment rings there would imbue a sense of faithfulness or loyalty to your beloved. And the very first wedding rings were actually of red stones like garnets and
Why
rubies.
diamonds?
Well, diamonds are actually a marketing thing.
Wow.
Look, I
Fell for it.
I love a diamond, and it's a cool story about the woman who came up with the marketing. But essentially, De Beers had the market on lock for diamonds. And we shifted culturally from a time where people were like wearing diamonds to dinner and the upper class was like the only ones who had access to diamonds and pearls, to the average, person wanting to adorn themselves. And diamonds are actually extremely abundant. It's compressed carbon. So that's what we are. Like they're actually one of the most common minerals on the earth. Like they're very, very abundant. So it's the value of a diamond isn't in its rarity, it's in the market. So these bigger corporations have the market on lock. They only release X number of diamonds per year. But the marketing strategy was that they wanted to be able to sell a higher volume of smaller diamonds at varying price points so that they maintained the value of the diamond, but they could still expand their business. Because if they just, put the diamonds on the market with the high abundance that they're in, they lose their value, right? Because they're more common. So it's like the rarer stones that have a higher value. So they were creating rarity by only releasing a certain amount. So the marketing strategy that they came up with was a diamond is forever, that this is your symbol of your love. And it is a good stone choice, right? It's super hard. It's really durable. So for women who are going to be, using their hands every day and wearing it for a lifetime, like it's a great choice for that. But it put diamonds in every household. And it became also still exclusive because it's the engagement ring. So it's like we're probably only reaching for like one big diamond ring in our lifetime, which is this symbol of love. And so it was a brilliant strategy, but that's...
Wow. So it doesn't really have any symbolism historically except for marketing.
Well, so... yes and no. I mean, so if we take aside our cultural relationship to it, the diamond shape is very protective. Like you see it in the Taoist scrolls, like protection scrolls. And diamonds in their pure form, like do actually form in this diamond shape. And, compressed carbon. So our bodies are carbon. So they're formed really, really deep in the earth. It's intense pressure, intense heat. So what we go through is what makes us sparkle, right? Like those hard things we go through create the magic, the beauty in us. So there's a lot we can read into here, like our highest self, right? Like we've been through the fire and we're distilled into our essence now. So I think diamonds are a beautiful stone to work with on the energetic level, but it is hard to separate it now from the cultural association. But I love diamonds.
Wow. So that was ring finger.
Yeah. So
And
the
then
ring
pinky.
finger, is sun. And then our pinky is Mercury.
Mercury.
So Mercury is our communication, the stories we tell ourselves and others. This can actually be a really interesting placement for magic work because, how we speak is a form of spell casting, the language that we choose. And so pinky is, a little bit of a magic placement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thumbs?
And so the thumbs, I feel like it's interesting because each mound has a different thing. And so for me, the thumb doesn't so much resonate in the Vedic.
Yeah.
So I go off of what I feel is true. And I've been invited to make some Vedic prescription rings in my time, and it's a very strict process. There are a lot of fine points, and sometimes the piece needs to be prayed over for a certain number of days with certain mantras. The rings always need to have an open back so it can have contact with the skin. There's all these nuances, and so this part really resonates for me in the Vedic tradition. The Taoists have a different, but often overlapping view of body placements based on acupuncture points. And so, we can look at multiple ways in, but again, always trust your body's yes and resonance to something.
Wow.
Yeah.
For people when they're thinking about their jewelry, can they pray over their jewelry, or like, does it hold intention? Does it depend on if the jewelry is crap jewelry, or like if someone has really cheap jewelry, does that, how does that impact them?
So I feel like everything can be sacred. I would never want to say that because it's, not
From
made
Claire's.
of gold, it's not special to you.
Yeah.
Like things can hold meaning. And there's also a lot of different metals that are really beautiful that don't have a lot of value. Copper being one of them. I personally have a skin irritation to copper, so I can't wear it, but it's in the alloy that I work with gold, so that the energetic is still in there, because there's a lot of resonance with copper and certain stones. So I would actually be less concerned about the value of the piece and more about our relationship to it. So all things exist in relationship, as I said. And I personally do pray with my jewelry. I set intentions with the stones and the metals. I place my jewelry in altar space. I have, little drawers that like are silk lined. And like, if I'm putting it away, I'm kind of like, oh, I worked with this piece for an intention that's no longer present time for me. I'm going to put it in the drawer for a while and kind of revisit it and set a new intention when I'm ready to wear it again. So there are a lot of ways you can do that. I would definitely say that it's important to think about what we're calling in, though. So if you have old pieces that, may not, be highest vibration, all good. And, shifting the mindset so that maybe what you're calling in future are gemstones that have not been heat treated, that come through ethical channels, so that the communities that mined them and the earth where they came from is in some measure of reciprocity. Working with gold is beautiful. It's an energetic that I feel like we all could use. It's monatomic, which means that it can exist in its wholeness in one single atom. It'll never tarnish. It's extremely soft, but extremely strong at the same time. It has an association with the sun, which I feel like the sun is this source of unconditional love. Like it shows up for us every single day. Like we all grow up towards the sun. Like you see the little flower like opening like a bud in the sunlight. And so it's this kind of energy with gold. It's really loving. It feels like the dad you want to tell you a bedtime story and like tuck you in. And it's also, we look at it collectively, it's what we set our currency against. So it's values, our self-worth. Adorning yourself in gold is a really beautiful way to affirm your self-worth. I always joke that like if the aliens are coming for one thing, they're coming for our gold. And and then on the other hand, we have silver. And so silver is also a beautiful, precious metal to adorn yourself in. It has a different energetic. It's more associated with the moon. So this is going to be actually a bit more in the feminine, a little bit more mysterious. And has long cultural history with, Native American traditions of silversmithing, Mexican, like it's a beautiful metal as well. So I would just invite, if you're calling in future adornments, to think about the, where it's coming from on the earth and what that relationship's like, and, be moving towards things that can support your highest vibration, while also, still loving the pieces you have. That the stones might have been heat treated, or it might be a base metal that's plated. And that's okay too. Like it's still holding a place in your life. But I will say also, if you feel like you have a piece that is carrying old energy, or was gifted to you from someone that you're not in contact with anymore, and you don't want their energy in your home, or even handed down from a relative and you're not sure what the history is, You can also clear your jewels. So all stones and metals come from the earth. So we can return them to the body of the earth for cleansing. So lay them out overnight in the soil of your healthy houseplants, or if you have an outdoor space, you could set them out there. That's a really good way to neutralize the energy. And depending on what it is, there might be deeper strategies for it, but you can always start there. Yeah.
Beautiful. Last question. What would someone do, or what are you doing to call in that divine union, that partner? What can someone do to call in their partner?
Yeah. So this is beautiful. I think that when calling in love, it's important to cultivate love within ourselves. And I know people say this all the time, and it's the worst. I hate when people say it. It's like, oh, come on. But it's really all we could do. There's some measure, again, of surrender and trust to divine timing. And that's one piece that I would really invite is like, I think in our current society, we have a tendency to want to manifest quickly and hit goals and, have the lists and all of this stuff. And with love, it's more ephemeral. It's something that is on a soul level. And so trusting the divine timing, working your prayers, being really clear with your guides, with your spirit helpers, what it is that you're moving towards. And then there are practices we can do as well that create an energetic bond with that which we're calling in. And so we had talked about, there's a practice where you can feel in your own heart, like the energetic cord that you're extending out to your beloved. And you might not feel it the first time you do this practice, but maybe the next time you will, where suddenly, you feel an energy coming towards you as well, like you're being met. And you can see like, what's the color of their energetic cord? What's the texture of it? Like, what does it smell like? Does the air feel cool? Does it feel warm? You can start to sense the energy of the person you're calling in, you're moving towards, because that which we're moving towards is moving towards us as well.
What you seek is seeking you.
Yeah. And so you can also begin there. And if there's an agreement of, yes, we want to come together, then you can start a dialogue. And, this, again, with the divine timing, it may be asking that person, are you in a situation that you need to clear up so that we can be together, inviting them to be doing the work as well.
Yes.
So if you're on your end and you're taking inventory of your life, you're creating space, you're, returning the wedding rings, you're doing all of these action steps, you can also ask them to be getting ready and be preparing for you as well. And so for me, it's a tender space. I think that it's a lot of just being present for what is, and keeping my eyes open, being open to new experiences. And one of the pieces that came in this summer for me around it was a return of a little bit of like childlike play and joy, and remembering how fun it is to connect with people. Not every person that you connect with needs to be your soulmate. Like you said, you kind of went through that period. And so I'm in a space right now of remembering some of the sparks that are present in that, and tending to the flame there.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Nothing like it. Nothing like chemistry. Nothing like the connection. Yeah, I had a lot of karma. Just like a lot of karmic relationships to clear up. So it's been like, each has different medicine, each has different things. But I think staying in the mystery and staying in the trust is like the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So this has been so much fun. I could talk to you forever. I'm like, I want to sit at your feet. I really appreciate our session and my piece, which is in my room now. It's so stunning. Where can people connect with you and find you?
I'm on Instagram at Savannah King Jewelry.
Do you do sessions publicly?
So the readings I sometimes have available and sometimes don't, depending on my energetic availability and my workflow.
True healer.
Yeah. I always want to be showing up for that space with full service. So if I'm not able to be, they aren't available. But they're usually on my site. You can book in. And I have a new collection coming out for winter solstice, which is exciting. And in the new year, I'll be teaching an online course, all things sacred adornment, from the goldsmithing to the stone medicine to cultivating your own practice with sacred creativity.
I love that. It's like, yeah, when people are interested in the divine feminine and really just getting into the magic of these practices, I think that's stunning. So thank you for coming.
Yes. Oh my gosh, my love. Thank you so much for having me.
This is so much fun.
I felt like when we did our reading, you know, you have that feeling where you meet a friend that you've never met before, but you know they're an old friend. And I think that's a gift of yours.
I think it's maybe my greatest gift is everyone feels like I'm their friend.
Yeah. It's like this immediate, warm, like
kinship.
Yeah.
It is. It's, I don't know. There's something about me that can make, and I don't want to, it sounds like it's manipulative, but I can make people feel really comfortable very easily.
It's a gift.
Yeah.
Truly.
It's non-judgment. I'm just very open. I'm like, so that means a lot. Thank you. Yeah. It was such a beautiful session.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I love you. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you so much, Savannah. Again, it's savannahking.com. You can get a virtual reading with her if you want to get the reading like what we talked about on the show. It's just on her website, savannahking.com, and it's a stone medicine reading. And then all of her pieces are available on her website too. And we have 700 other episodes that are just as powerful as this, that have so much medicine and insight and unique qualities and characteristics. So I'm so excited for you guys to dig into Almost 30. And if you want a daily dose of Almost 30 inspiration, motivation, and insight, you can listen to Morning Microdose, which is a free podcast that has no advertisements and is between 5 and 10 minutes of inspiration and insight.
Yeah, you guys love that one. I see you sharing about it all the time. Thank you for the support there. And finally, our book is on sale for pre-order. Almost30book.com. Check it out. The book comes out in June, but if you buy now, you get special gifts, really, really, really special, unique gifts from Krista and I think you're going to love. So almost30book.com to pre-order and for more info. Love you guys. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world. We're obsessed with you. We'll see you on the next one.
Love you guys. Bye.